This is the journey from scratch to success.
Hello everyone, welcome to From Scratch to Success, where we interview successful entrepreneurs about their journey to inspire others. My name is Jay Ma, your host. Today, I've got an amazing special guest, Maria De La Ossa. She's a Gen X kid born in Central America, Panama, who has always been captivated by stories and the lives of others. The human condition, you could say. Started as an actress, but after being an extra in Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear, she soon realized she wanted to be behind the camera. Her grandma, an art teacher in high school, and her uncle Jack, who was an editor for Paramount Pictures, have been her main inspirations in her creative journey. I am so happy that you're here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jema. I have a pleasure being here.
Thank you. How are you?
I am fabulous.
Yes?
Really good, yeah.
Good. Now let's get straight into it.
Absolutely, let's go for it.
So I want to know, what's the origin story? Tell me everything.
Look, the origin story, I like I said, I was born in Central America, in Panama. My grandma, basically, she was an artist. She was a museum curator. She was president of the Panamanian Theater. So, of course, I grew up being in the creative arts since I was a young kid. Life happens. You become a teenager, all this. I'm like, whatever. But then my art teacher, like I said, very instrumental. The people that have been in my life, who you mentioned prior, have been really instrumental in my journey. Because, you get those ebbs and flows where you don't think you're good enough and whatnot. And, and again, got married, had a beautiful, gorgeous son who's now almost 24. Obviously, motherhood takes precedence over anything else. So my creative journey took a step back. But again, divorce, and then I decided you need to grab it by the balls and go for it. So basically been doing short films and graduated to finally getting my first feature credit on a feature called Carmen and Belude, who's in Netflix at the moment, and now currently directing my second feature with Michelle Roati's My Inner Child. So stoked.
Yeah, that sounds so exciting. We spoke with Michelle as well about the film. So, I think that's where we met.
That's right.
So, very blessed. I think that film is incredible.
Absolutely. Look, it's an incredible feat, not only someone writing a feature, because I tap my hat to anyone that can have the discipline to write 90 pages, I tend to go off with the fairies. I'm happy to, I'm like, I just like, there's a sale on Amazon. Oh my God, I like, but not only that, but, a woman over 40 as well, which, once you go over 35, I feel like we get just tossed back and saying like they're too old, but we are the ones that have the stories, like I said, And her story was fabulous. It's very whimsical. It's I grew up watching Steven Spielberg films, and to me it's a very Steven Spielberg-ish vibe. And she's gathered an amazing cast and crew, including yourself, girl. But no, yeah. So I've been blessed to have had the opportunity to come back and direct a second feature, and to work with another female entrepreneur, writer, creative who's been in the industry for a long time as well, and who again is a almost Gen X kid like myself. Like we gotta empower ourselves. I'm going to digress here for a second, but I like, which is great to see all these 20 under 20 or 30s under 30s, but what about the freaking 50 over 50s? Those women that have had to put their lives, their dreams in hold to have to pursue responsibilities in adulthood, and still keeping that flame alive to go out and create it, and it doesn't matter what happens, they're going out for it. And I feel that doesn't get enough recognition.
Well said. And I think even your journey, which you
Yeah.
mentioned,
Yeah.
like, you growing up really loving the art and the
Yeah.
creative, but then you grow up and you got married and,
Yes.
did the motherhood and raise a baby, now an
Yes.
adult.
I know.
And now you sort of gone back
Yes.
and look how success, look at the journey.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to ask you, so going back to like the inspiration of your childhood, of your grandma and your
Yeah,
uncle,
yeah.
and also throughout that journey,
Yeah.
like what really sort of reminded you, okay, this is what I want to do?
Look, it's just the energy. It's just such a beautiful energy creating. Like I said, growing up, I consider myself a bit of a tomboy, I guess. Like, I went out and played with, like, my neighborhood was mainly all boys. So I grew up playing soccer and baseball and all that stuff. And I felt that we were almost creating worlds. We were pretending to be professional athletes, playing football and stuff like that. Well, I never registered being at home playing with a doll. You know what I mean? So to me, that it's so. Ever since I was a young kid, I've always been interested in creating worlds and stories. And like I said, I remember having my Fisher Price toys and creating stories and like what's going to happen when they go on safari and whatnot. And my grandma fed me that. Like she was all gung ho about it. And like I said, she would take me to, the museum exhibitions and the theater and the plays and all that. And she was so integral part in Panama about it. And it's just, to me, what always stayed with me is that the creative curiosity, you could say, of what happens, what if, what stories are out there to tell, and the first movie that I saw with my grandma was Jaws, right? I was 7 years old. My grandma took me to go and see Jaws. And this is very important to me. And I remember sitting, and back then, it was the wooden chairs, like again, Central America. Until this day, I remember the ta-dum from John Williams and then the fin. And I remember this, I still it's like yesterday. Like it's one of those memories, that very core memory. And the sigh of the people and the ay Dios mío, ¿qué va a pasar? In Panama, like we all get over dramatic. And that stayed with me. Like I'm like, my God, look how like that can touch an audience. And I registered in from a young age though. I registered that was a medium to tell stories, and I wasn't technically scared, thinking, oh my God, that's make believe, that's not real. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's those core moments, those core elements that like making worlds and bringing communities in. And like I said, I got that since I was a young kid, and I was blessed to have a core family members and like I said, my art teacher as well, to just round me with it. So yeah, and like I said, it's that feeling. It's just that vibe. To me, it's a everyone says I'm passionate about it, but to me, it's a curiosity. I've always been curious. It's in like I said, it's almost like a vocation for me. It's not like, oh, I love doing it. No, I have to do it. I can't see myself, and I don't want to do anything else. There's just so much to tell out there, and I want to leave audiences. Like for example, one of the best movies I can think, it's Everything Everywhere All at Once, for example.
Yes.
Love that movie. To this day, I couldn't really tell you what the movie is about, but it left me with such a beautiful feeling that till this day, it's a core emotion, and it's not oh yeah, that movie was great, oh it was beautiful. If it leaves you with something that resonates with you, even if it's just two people, to me it's a beautiful thing to do. Yeah.
And something you said in there, it's like it's amazing. That's why storytelling is so important, because it truly connects everyone together, regardless of where we're from, culture, and all of that stuff, right? Yeah. So it's amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Now, Maria, was there any early challenges or doubt that you faced?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you start your career, I started taking serious steps when I moved to New York, and I was working in the USA Network Sci-Fi Channel, and I started as a research analyst, which was they would bring programmings or pilots, and then they would try to say what would be the best advertisement and focus groups and stuff like that. So I sort of got a pretty interesting upbringing as far as the creative side of things, demographics and focus groups and what would go wide and what time would be best and stuff like that. So again, I came from the Seinfeld Friends era, which advertisement was massive. And then moving from that then to getting into the more creative side, of course, you're going like, oh, man, I'm not good enough. Because you see, and I think that even at that age, I would have been about 24 years of age. And I started as a PA. I did Sesame Street.
Oh.
I did a whole bunch of NYU films. That's when I was in New York. But, some of the PAs were 18. I was 24. So I was starting a bit later in life. So you always have that self-doubt. It's like, man, I've left this way too late now. It's almost like I was treated almost like a gymnast, gymnasts start at 10 years of age, and I'm here, 6 years later. Why am I not now a first AD at least? Why am I starting? So you always have that self-education and self-doubt and self-sabotage. And then went back to the States for, and then actually digress. I wanted to be an actress, and all
Yes.
this. And that's when I I was an extra in Cape Fear, and I remember that's what I want to do. I don't want to be an actress anymore. And it was like that. Like, I don't want to just, I want to go in, I want to wear walkie-talkie and have all the color tapes and what they're doing and camera movement and all that stuff. But again, it's just, to me, it was always an age thing as to, I should have been there at that age, but why is it taking me longer? And what I realized, and you soon get to realize, is it's like, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I know this sounds very cliche, but it is true. I mean, yes, you got the likes of, Curry Barker now with Obsession, who's 24 or 25. And I'm thinking, hang on. But in saying that, adulthood and responsibilities happen. And not to play like, oh, poor little me, but women do tend to have to deal with a bit more, like especially if you're a mother, you have to carry a child for 9 months, you have to, breastfeed the child, you have to do all these things while men can go and do what they want to do at an early stage. So, and those things happen, and everything that happens to us emotionally and physically, we don't feel adequate for a while. You know what I mean? So, and it's those things, but it's sort of like, till this day, I still get bothered. Bothered, but it's still like, oh, fuck, man, I should have been there, but I'm not. But then I soon remind myself, and hang on, look how far you've come from 7 years ago. Where you are now is where you dreamed 10 years ago you wanted to be. So it's small steps, but it's always in the back. Like anyone that tells me, oh, yeah, I don't, I've grown past that. Lying. Everyone has that self-sabotaging,
Of course.
And it's just looking back. What I do is I always look back and go, 5 years ago, I wish I was here. So 5 years from now, it's going to be the same thing. So it's just almost like two steps up, one step back. But you get there. And like I said, I still, that goal of mine is still so clearly visible that I don't care if I'm 85 years of age. I'm just going for it. I'm way too in it to just go, it was a great ride.
That's right.
No, forget it. I'm way too far ahead to just, throw the gloves out.
Yeah, something you said in there, I think a lot of people can relate, but especially women. I feel like, yes, you truly had to do the things that you have to do, but still remind yourself you are enough and that you can do what you want to do if you put your mind to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And in that journey, you know how you always have that negative voice, but just don't listen to that.
No, for sure. And like I said, it's not like you don't listen to it. You tend to, it's almost like I treat it almost like if you had a passenger going, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Oh, yes.
Are we there yet? But you learn how to quiet it. You learn how to silence it a bit. Like, it's still there.
Yes.
But it's like, shoo fly. You know what I mean? But and to me, I actually appreciate that I still have that. Because it, in a weird way, it pushes me to continue. Like, that's why, one of the reasons why I'm like, man, I've come too far. And I think that that's what a lot of times it happens, where people go like, oh, by the time, it's also putting an age limit. It's almost saying by the time I'm 35, I'm going to be selected and win Sundance, or by the time I'm 40, I'm going to win an Oscar. It's to me, I don't put an age. I put when I get there.
Yeah.
Because and that's what I see a lot of people is like, by the time I'm 40, I'm going to do this and do this and do that, and then they hit 35 and they hit 40 and they're not there yet, and then they give up because they go like, well, obviously I can't do it. If I said that to myself, I'm more of, I'll get there.
Yeah.
It's like climbing Mount Everest. You know, like so many people that climb Mount Everest, it takes them 3, 4, 5 takes before they hit the thing. You know, but they're so gun ho in wanting to go for it. That it doesn't matter if they have to swim through snow and climb whatever, they will do it, and that's what I admire. So so I'm one of those. So I've never I tend not to put an age limit on what I want, on a goal.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's something I feel like a lot of us can take away from what you just said there. Yeah, definitely. What would be a crucial turning point throughout your journey so far?
A crucial turning point was, like I said, giving myself permission to go and do, and not having to wait for anyone, which is what's happening at the moment. You know, so many people, I'm like, oh, I've got this, but I just don't have the funding. For example, let's take Michelle. Right? She has pretty much given the middle finger to everyone.
Yes.
As far as that goes, and just has gone and done it. She's stopped giving permission, stopped waiting for permission.
That's right.
And just go and do it. And I feel that, again, that's one of those that, you know, you again, I admire the young generation, again, like the Curry Barkers at the moment with Obsession. And I can't remember the director's name for Backrooms, but I think he's 21 or something like that. And I know that they have a big YouTube influence, but these kids have gone and done it. So it's a question of, we need to just put our big girl pants on, take some of that example and do it. Why are we waiting to get permission from anyone? Just go and do it. And obviously it's obvious that it can be done. So I think it's breaking that mentality, you know what I mean? Which is what I'm saying. Like, I've stopped asking for permission and just gone and do it. And that's sometimes it's the best thing to do, because you jump off the deep end, and not only do you know what you can do at that stage, but you know who supports you.
That's so true. Yes.
You know who are the real people that have your back. And it's been a rude awakening, but a really good awakening to have.
Wow, that's really profound, actually. Yeah, I'm like, I need to take notes down, but yes, it's in here.
You know?
So what was your first, like, success, like, milestone, and how did you feel?
I think my first success was when I went back and started doing shorts again, and that was actually when I was living in Alice Springs.
Oh, wow.
I started taking a class at Charles Darwin University, and it was a filmmaking, like, you know, how they have in something like an 8-week filmmaking course, and you got to borrow the equipment that had the small university had, which was back then the old LED lights and JVC camera and stuff. But from that, I made a short film with myself and my son.
Oh, wow.
And that little film that cost $100 to make and edited by, bless his soul, who sadly passed away, David Nixon, who used to be one of the lecturers, got into a whole bunch of film festivals.
Wow.
So, to me, I realized that you don't have to have this massive, everything has to look pretty, and the production value, which I think a lot of first-time filmmakers like, but it's not going to look beautiful. I think if it, like, I'm a firm believer that if it hits you here, and it has good audio, it has to have good audio.
Yes, audio is so important.
Audio is so important.
Yeah.
You know, your world's your oyster. And that's how you grow. To me, that was the beginning of, I'm going back to this. I've got a knack for it. I can always grow and become much more well-rounded, which that's the other thing. You never stop. You don't ever think that you know everything. You need to continue growing. And then from that movie Flashback, which was 2007, with my then 6-year-old son,
Aww.
who was my bit of a guinea pig, and then won a whole bunch of awards in Alice Springs, and one of my mentors is Rachel Clemens, who's Brindle Films, who latest film she produced was Kangaroo with who did fabulously. So it's those things, you know, small stepping stones, and then from there I was just like, but then the hard part, like I said, the self-sabotage, it becomes like, it took me such a long time to admit that I'm a director. It's like, I'm like, yeah, I just did that short film, but I'm not a director. So it's one of those, you are a director.
That's
you
right.
directed something. You need to get into that headspace, regardless if it was $10 it cost you, or regardless if it was $100, but you directed something, start getting into that mentality. But that's also hard, because they're like, yeah, but I didn't have the big, you know, equipment and, you know, the big, you know, people that might not say no. So that is another one that I found that it was hard to admit, that it was like, I'm a director now, and I'm like, but it eventually you go, oh yeah, I'm a director. So looking back at that stage of my life was like, far out, Maria. Like, if you could see yourself now, you know what I mean? So yeah. So it's like I said, it's those things where I think it's almost like, am I really? Like, picture yourself, like,
yeah. Well, you are.
but you know, but still, like, it's
Yes.
but it's that, you know, like, for example, like anyone, like, oh, I did this, I'm like, I guess I am. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Lessons that you learn the hard way.
Oh man, I think, look, I think the main one is people that pretend to be your friends are not. And I think not to go too much into it, but like I said, with my first feature, that one person where I thought, yeah, we're friends, and it was almost like for me not to ask the hard questions in contracts.
Okay, wow.
Contracts are so important, and it doesn't matter if it's your best friend. Or people that think it's like, yeah, it's just sign here, you know, it'll be all good. So I think trust your instincts when you first meet people, and not everyone that calls you sister, I'm like, oh yeah, let's have coffee, or have your best intentions. And contracts are something that you have to pass the smile and the friendship. Contracts are a thing that you need to, and that to me was hard to learn, because, you know, I always think, everyone's great in the industry, but sadly there's a lot of snakes. So I think that to me was a lesson that I had to learn quickly. And yes, you have to ask the hard questions, but if the other person on the other side who you're asking the questions understands, then you're in good ground. Because at the end of the day, it is a business.
Yes.
And as selfish as it might sound, but you are also doing it for yourself. And of course, you want to create stories and be part of cast and crew and just be amongst it and the vibe and everything. But you also have to make sure that you don't get kicked in the butt if you don't do the right thing, which that means that you have to ask the hard questions.
Yes.
So yeah, that lesson, that is mainly the biggest lesson I've learned so far.
Wow, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Okay, so what keeps you going, Maria?
My goals, my dreams. It's as simple as that. My dream is holding that gold statue in LA.
Yes.
You know? Again, cliche, cheesy, whatever you want to call it, but I'm trying until the day that I'm 6 feet under, or or to get look, my next attainable goal, I feel it would be at least getting selected to Sundance, or to Sydney Film Fest, or Melbourne. But to me, Sundance is would be fabulous, and from there, it's if I ever get nominated for a short in the Oscars or a feature, my God, that. And to me, it almost scares me, because I'm thinking, well, what if that happens within the next 5-6 years? Would I retire after that, or do I want to continue? Which is, like when you start, it's almost again like when you see these Olympic gold medal winners who are 14 years of age. Like, what do they do after that? You know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
here I am. But so to me, it's the goals and aspirations and childhood dreams and bucket list moments that I still want, you know, and that's why I don't put it on an age base.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
put it on an attainable goal more than anything.
You know, I think we all need to have a dream that's so big
That's
that
right.
when people hear it, they're like, wow, you know? But
Yeah.
I love that, and
Yeah.
I truly admire that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I feel like I can personally, like, truly relate to
Well, you're going there,
So-
like, honestly, girl, like, honestly, I've been, like, I know, like, but your journey has been absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you, is there any habits that you have drives your success?
Yeah, look, my main habit is don't be hard on yourself. There's gonna be times where you basically just wanna be home watching movies all day.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that's almost like your I feel like that's almost like a subconscious process. But I do love watching movies. Friends and my son don't like watching movies with me because
Okay.
I will really analyze it, and
Yes.
like I said, I'm a very visual kid. Terrence, for example, movies by Terrence Malick or the sweeping, beautiful camera movements in the wide angle. So I've always gone like, or like for more example, Train Dreams, that was Oscar nominated. I tend to just rewind and rewind and rewind and take notes and just keep that almost like in my memory bank and stuff. I love to read. I don't love to read, but I love to read books or hear podcasts of, you know, Roger Deakins or the DGA in the States where they have the new movies and the directors and their process, because you always, like I said, you never stop learning. But to me, it's realizing that there will be times where you might have things to do, but it's almost like your body going like, take a break, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. Don't think, you know, like, and it's not like, oh, I'm there slotting for like a whole month, but it's like sometimes it's just like, it's almost like your creative brain goes like, feed me more, I need to get fed, and then go from there. So that's how I see it. So, but to me, it's always been I've always, like I said, I didn't go to film school per se. So to me, it's always been, you know, School of Hard Knocks, watching, putting my hand up for any type. I didn't care if there were paid attachments, mentorships. I didn't care. I've been lucky that I have that I guess gumption when I'll approach anyone randomly on Instagram. Hey, you don't know me from a bar of soap, but
Yes.
and I have been lucky more times than none. Where I go like, yeah, come and have a coffee with me, you know, or whatever. So it's also approaching those who inspire you.
Yeah.
Because more times than none, you'll be quite surprised when they'll be like, sure, you know what I mean? And for me, have been DPs, like cinematographers, and some directors, and like, you know, some Australian directors. For example, even Criv Stenders at the moment, like, sometimes I'll go like, hey, Criv, you're doing this. Do you reckon that would be good for me? Yeah, come on. You know, it's those things, and I feel like it's having the gumption to think outside the square.
Yeah.
And approaching people, even if it's a cold call. Like, chances are they'll either answer, they'll say no, or they just don't answer. It's nothing, there's nothing wrong. So to me, that it's almost like, that's one thing that I do take very seriously. If I feel something that has inspired me so much, I will basically go to Instagram or LinkedIn and go, hey, again, you know, and it's that kind of, and that's how you create a rapport, and you'll be quite happy. You'll be quite happy and surprised when people answer back, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's actually quite cool. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. And like I said, not being a kid who, you know, like growing up in the States, it's not like here where you can go to school and then pay after you make that money, you know, HECS debt and stuff. Like, if you don't have the money or you don't have scholarships in the States, you can't afford it. So, and I was never not studious, but if there was something that I didn't quite like class-wise, I would just, again, go off with the fairies. I don't know. So I've always been more hands-on, and like I said, I've been lucky to have a fellowship from Panavision, did an attachment for Meg White for while the men were away.
Wow.
All these things, but it's all been from asking. So it's always, to me, if one thing is ask. Just ask. What if? You never know. And I would hate to live with what if, So yeah.
So true. We need to hustle, like get yourself out there,
hustle.
right?
Yes, that's right. You have to
always
hustle.
say. Yeah,
absolutely.
So true.
Absolutely.
Maria, so how do you deal with like burnout, fear, or criticism?
You keep on going. You keep on going. And again, cheesy and cliche things might be, but criticisms and opinions are like bum holes. Everyone has one. And if someone criticizes me and they don't know me, that's their opinion. You know, it's freedom of speech, man. Go for gusto, because again, I'm sure that I've done it as well, but it's that if you're going to allow yourself to become unmotivated, and this is criticism, not constructive criticism, which is, I think there are two different things.
Of course,
Constructive criticism, give it to me every day of the week, because that's the only way you're going to learn. But then there's the criticism in the nasty opinions and all that, which I go. But again, that is one of, sadly, I think that runs rife in our industry.
Yeah,
and it's just, that's when you definitely need to have tough skin, which that's the thing that a lot of and you get that just from having to deal with it. Sure, it for a few minutes it goes like, oh man, maybe. But then I go, I'm not questioning myself. So it's learning how not to question yourself, making sure that you believe in what you're doing. Again, this is criticism and not constructive criticism.
That's right. Yes.
And then just continue, because again, it will sting, because I'm like, oh, wait, and especially if you hear it from someone else, which is the thing. Like I've always, and that's the thing. Like I've always been brought up. Like if I have an issue with something, or like I go, hey.
Yeah. What's up?
Hey, let me just tell you. But when you hear it from someone else of this, it's the But I feel sadly, and look, I think that's with every that's just a rife. But sometimes it doesn't run rife in here. But again, it's learning how to just dust yourself up, move on, and not allowing to not question yourself over small things of what someone that hardly knows you has said, because it's almost like that'll eventually be just forgotten in the next two. So don't let it linger with you. Yeah,
love that.
Yeah.
Maria, what does success mean to you? It's a big one.
Success to me has never been about money and fame. Yes, we all need money to survive, absolutely, but success to me has always been able to go to a theater and see the movie that I've been lucky and have had the privilege to direct, and have people watch it. And even if it's just 5 people that come to me and go like, that movie was fabulous, it touched me, because that to me is success. And for my son, when he watches, says like, Mom, that was bloody awesome. Like I said, like it happened during Carmen and Blude, who had the opening at the Hayden Orpheum, a year ago already, and it was sold out. So when you go 700 people, and again, it's almost like church. To me, that's church, and then having Dave Collins from the Umbilical Brothers sit next to me, which I adore, because he was part of it, going like, man, you've done good and all this, and then my son actually going like, to me, seeing my son being so proud of me, that to me is success. That's success, because like kids are always going to be proud of their parents, but to see that emotionally and physically right next to you, that to me is success. And again, and the audience reactions, and just being able to see it on a big screen. And if money comes my way after that, sure, look, I'm not going to say no, but to me, success is hearing people laugh and cry in something that I created. That to me is yeah, I mean, that's pure bliss.
That's so powerful. What's your son's name?
My son's name is Kobe.
Kobe. Shout out to Kobe. Shout out to Kobe. Yes. I feel like that's such a beautiful moment you've just described. You know, so I feel like we needed to just mention Kobe.
No, for sure. No,
Yes.
like I said, and he's my buddy. Like I said, I'm single parent, and he's been my ride or die, and he's still. And I love the fact that he's still from time to time, hey mom, let's go for lunch, and I'm like, oh my god, but I'm still like, you still want to hang out with your mom? That must be cool. But when I took him to the premiere, and I saw his reaction, and just he had his. Like, that's my mom. So that to me was just that's bliss, man. That's bliss.
Yeah, wonderful. Now the next round is going to be a quick engaging round, okay? And short answers. Okay. Are we ready?
Oh shit! Yes.
Perfect.
Let's do it.
All right. Best advice you've ever received.
Best advice I've ever received. Don't quit.
Okay. What's one thing you would have done differently?
Nothing. I think my journey is where I'm supposed to be.
I love that. If you were to lose everything tomorrow, what would be your first move?
To gain the love of my son again.
Okay. That's so beautiful. Maria, so what's next for you?
So what's next is obviously we're finishing Michelle's movie, My Inner Child. I've got another feature on the horizon with my creative partner Nick Payne, who we've acquired the IP for, which is a bush ranger story. But this is a bit more than a bush ranger. It's almost like if Brokeback Mountain met Moonlight, met Ben Hall, which is Captain Moonlight, his name was. And then I've got a proof of concept of my own short film called A Tooth for a Tooth.
Oh, wow.
Which is very Babadook, the substance, with a woman over 35 protagonist, which entails a toothache and what happens when she finds out that her husband is cheating on her.
Wow. I love that.
Yes.
I have to talk to you more about
Yes.
that. That's very
Watch
interesting.
the space.
Yes, watch the space. So, okay, that sounds so interesting.
Thank you.
Now, I know that you talked about your dreams and goals. So, what's your future looking like for your goals and dreams?
Look, my future from my goals, they're looking pretty good. Like I said, the one thing that I'm pretty disciplined about is having some sort of schedule and not just going like, oh yeah, it'll happen when it happened. Like it's just like I said, the process of now doing the next feature from the ground up is quite new to me. So it's become a bit more of a producer role, which I love, getting into the deep end and doing that. So that process is ever evolving, and then just seeing where it goes. But so far we have ticked so many boxes that there's still a lot more to go, but it's going okay. And then with my proof of concept, the same thing. It's just I've done A, B, C, but we still have G, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
Yes.
But it's just making sure that you continue ticking those boxes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, so for people that's listening,
Yeah.
if they have a dream or if they wanted to do something, but they haven't started, what would your advice be for them?
Don't wait for anyone. Jump in the deep end. That's the only way you're gonna. If you think, oh, maybe I'm good, maybe I'm not good, just do it, and just don't live with the what ifs. There are so many big and beautiful things that can happen to you if you just jump. Just that, and that's the simple answer. And like I said, life happens, adulthood happens, responsibility happens. But if just don't regret something that you wish you would have done. That's always been me. I don't want to be in my deathbed and be like, I wish I would have done that. Do it.
That's right.
If it doesn't happen, like I said, it's like failure. Failure is more steps to your success than it isn't. If you haven't failed, you haven't done it. So fail as many times, but just go into it.
Yeah, I love that. You know, I just want to say as well, and you don't know this, it's like you are so kind because when I met you on set that day and then afterwards we had a chat and you found out that I do all this other stuff and you were like you're very supportive. And so I've been wanting to tell you right now face to face to say thank you. So I actually appreciate you. And Maria, like today's episode really inspired me. So I just want to say thank you so much.
No,
and
thank you.
I know this like inspiring so many other people as well.
Yes.
So thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me. And like I said, likewise, you're an inspiration. Like I said, especially being in minorities like we are, and still going out and do it. And when you told me, it's like, I'm going to go to Melbourne, and I'm like, what the heck, girl? Like, you're going. And that's what I'm saying. Just go. And like I said, likewise, you have been an inspiration and support, man.
Thank you, Maria. So, guys, I hope you enjoy today's episode with Maria. Truly inspirational journey. Make sure you follow us for the next episode. Again, my name is Jay Ma, and God bless you. See you soon.